All right, good afternoon, everyone. We'll give them a couple of more minutes. I think we wound up having about 10 people sign up for this one, so we'll give them a couple of more minutes. All right. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to participate in this focus group for the Community Services Integrated Master Plan. My name's Corey Styron. For those of you that I don't know, I'm the Community Services Director here in Los Alamos. And we're undertaking a pretty ambitious project to look at how can we integrate all of the community services program services and offerings so that we're getting the biggest bang for our buck. We're kind of being a pioneer here by adding social services and library. Several agencies have done one or the other relatively successful, so we're kind of plowing new ground by looking at everything here. Really, because as a community services department, we honestly touch so many members of the community in so many different ways. As part of this, we contracted out with Greenplay LLC to lead this project for us and facilitate it. They have done several hundred over the United States in the past 20 years. As of January 1st, Greenplay merged with Barry Dunn to be one of the most formidable consulting programs in the United States regarding parks, recreation, cultural affairs, cultural items and social services, planning in the nation. They're pretty deep bench right now. We have Pat O'Toole and J.R. Clanton today with us that are going to facilitate this meeting, have a brief presentation, and then going to give you an opportunity to weigh in on some questions that they have. This is very, very early in the process. We're just a little bit above ground zero on this. This is one of 12 different meetings we're having this week. We had 4 meetings back in middle of December to get this started. But again, we're really early in the process and they'll share that with you. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Pat and JR.
Thanks, Corey. My name's Pat O'Toole. I'm the project manager for this project and a manager with Barry Dunn, and have been consulting with Greenplay for almost all 20 years of their 22 years existence. And I've been consulting since 95 and actually been a director or assistant director at 4 different agencies. So kind of sat in Corey's chair early in my career before I started consulting. So we do kind of come at it all from an operational and practitioner's perspective. And our plans, what we hope they do is that they're implemented. So we kind of hang our hat on putting it together, matching it up with resources so you can move forward in the future. And public input is extremely important to us. So with that, I'm going to let JR introduce himself.
Hello, I'm J.R. Clanton. I'm a consultant with Barry Dunn. Prior to joining the firm, I have pretty extensive experience in municipal finance, parks, recreation, libraries. Most recently, I ran the Westminster Public Library for 5 years. Excited to be here helping you all with this project.
Whoops. Did I show there for just a second? So now I started at the end, so. Okay, gonna briefly show a infographic of our entire process. And as Corey said, we're kind of at the very beginning stage. So we are in the needs assessment, public input portion of the project. We've had, we started to crank this up last fall with a couple of strategic kickoff meetings to really plan out the project. COVID's been a little bit nasty with us, you know, and of course had to go around the holidays, but certainly able to. We were going to be on site this week, but we're glad we can do these things virtually, and we've actually done quite a few during the pandemic in this fashion. So the 4 stages of public engagement, this is kind of number 1. And out of this information, we will put a statistically valid survey together, as well as an online survey so that everybody in the community can participate. We'll tell them separately, but compare them, and they're typically very, very close. We are going to do a inventory assessment. So we will look at every amenity and facility in the system and do an assessment of that. And what will come out of that will be a level of service analysis that's GIS based that will show the level of service per rooftop in your communities. We're also going to do demographics, and in both cases, we're going to do sub areas of Los Alamos and White Rock, as well as a combined county. One of the other things we'll put together, as Corey said, we've done over 650 of these in the last 22 years across the country. And we also have a research and development group that's a 501c3 associated with Greenplay. It's GP Red. And those are some of the best thinkers in Parks and Recreation. And one of the things that they do is they track trends across the country. They look at kind of the things that we're looking at in this integrated system that we're looking to put together with Los Alamos County. And that is from the health community perspective. What are the quality of life issues that Parks and Rec community services sort of entails, libraries and social services and all the things we're talking about here. So we have a vast library that we can dig into there. The second stage is what we call the findings, and we're going to do that in 2 parts virtually. One will be pretty much what we heard from the public, going through the survey results, what we've really looked at and analyzed from the department of how you're operating now, and then go into a visioning session where we'll start to talk about, you know, what are the key issues that all of our findings showed us and that were the priorities, and then what are some of those preliminary recommendations that we can at least go back, everybody's on the same page, and start compiling our draft report, our draft master plan, which then we would come back and present to our different committees as well as the public, the recommendations, which will also include an action plan with some cost for capital and cost for operations, and a draft timeline. And our timelines are usually in short-term, midterm, long-term. And again, we're gonna start or keep compiling our wish list today, and then we will prioritize those through the process, and then we're going to start matching them up with available resources as well as some stretching of resources. So we kind of know where to draw the line as to what would make it implementable instead of just a pie in the sky wish list that sits on the shelf. After that, we'll gather one set of edits and create the final document and come in and present that as well. And then the final stage will be the implementation of the plan. With that, I'm going to let Corey talk about some of the projects in progress and some of the early on things in the community that were brought up relevant to this plan.
So just to kind of recap a few things that are in process. The BMX track renovation is currently in a holding pattern due to some concerns on the last RFP. We've added new lights at Brewer Arena and put the electrical underground. We're having conversations with the Pueblo Canyon Conceptual Trail for longer trails, NICA loops. Got the golf course improvements. And then we're working with the school district on a tennis court tournament site, and then a shared gymnasium space over near Los Alamos Public Schools. Both of those projects will go to a joint meeting of the school board and county council, probably later in February for further consideration. And then I've been here about a year and I've heard a few things, picked up a few things from people. None of these are much past an idea put on paper. But again, just kind of want to generate some thoughts with folks about what we could possibly do in the community. Also, if there's not anything that you think we need to do, that's good information as well. But we really want to incorporate, community health thoughtfully and intentionally throughout all of our programming and facility design. Same thing with the library. We've heard the ice rink covered for extended season. And we've seen some camping upgrades to Camp May, potential artificial turf on athletic fields, pickleball courts, splash pad up here on All Abilities Playground, exercise stations along the trails. There's some continued conversations about the conveyance of Rendaha Canyon and making that a recreation area. Make sure that all of our actions that we do are sustainable. Create a master plan for the North Mesa space. We've got some parcels in White Rock we should consider master planning. Had cricket pitch thrown out, community gardens, lighted playgrounds, and then the continued conversation about the Tween Center. Again, this is not exhaustive. This is just the stuff that we've heard out in the community.
Can I ask a quick question, Corey?
Sure.
Oh, just on that last slide, some things are in a different font and color. Does that mean they're like farther along, or is there a reason those are done like that?
I don't know. They're all about the same place. So they're all a dream at this point.
And if you're seeing that, I'm not seeing that on the original slide here.
The top three are kind of in blue, and then the other ones are in black and bold.
Oh, you're talking, okay, all the way. I was looking at the bottom list. Gotcha.
But no, Katie, we've started incorporating community health and library into our programming. So probably those are further along than the other opportunities.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, as we look into planning and actually looking at the community services department, we typically look at 5 elements for a healthy systems analysis. And, without going through each one of these, but looking at kind of who and why you do things and what are the negative things about what you do that we might be able to improve on. Looking at the intersection of all the different stakeholders, which particularly in this plan, we're going to do a little bit outside of the community services arm and look at all those integrated players in the community, looking at the assets and coming up with that equitable access as a guideline and seeing where we're short, what we need to do to shore that up from a level of service perspective. And then looking at, any of the ordinances and policies that might need to be improve to make this plan happen. And then, of course, looking at the facilities or the funding mechanisms and the resources. So bottom line is kind of looking at and including today, you know, what's happening, you know, what are you doing now as an agency? What is working that we want to continue or at least propel into the future? And then how can we improve? And we've got some questions we're going to run through. A little bit of housekeeping, what we're looking for, and I want to make sure we respect everybody's time and get done in an hour. So this is basically your classic brainstorming session. We are creating the wish list now from the start that will help inform what we want to put on the survey and the themes that come out of all of these 20 some meetings. So if it's said once, it counts as much now in the process as if it's said 100 times. So sometimes people want to get on and say, I second that, or, you know, whatever. And then secondly, the editorials at a later date, those will be more appropriate than now kind of creating this list. And sometimes we have the urge to say, well, I don't really agree with that. And, you know, the brainstorming rules are there's no good or bad answers at this point. So we're not looking for endorsement or non, or why you feel that way. We want to get as many things down in this hour as we possibly can based on our questions. So with that, we'll move into our first couple of questions. And that is, what are the current strengths of the Los Alamos County Community Services? So what are they currently doing well? And then the flip side of that in the same conversation, and we can certainly put them in the right places where JR taking notes, is what are those challenges or areas of improvement that need to be addressed? We can just jump right in, and also there's a chat feature if you feel like you'd rather do that. We are going to print those out as well as this recording, so we'll get everything down. But as long as we're not talking over everybody, just speak up and don't have to raise hands, but you're welcome to. How's that?
I can be brief if I could speak for like 1 or 2 minutes.
Go ahead.
Okay, my name's Cliff Fortgang. I just want to say one thing about the golf course. I don't even know if it's appropriate for what you're looking for, but I'll just get it out there. We're in the middle of a capital improvement project for the golf course now. I think I could speak for most of the golfers. We're extremely happy with how things are going. There's a new irrigation system that was put in last year, and there's plans for improving the golf course in other ways over the coming 1 to 3 years, probably. So my only comment would be, if it's appropriate in the master plan, that the county every, I don't know what the exact range of years would be, but let's say 3 to 5 years, reassess the golf course condition and look to see if it needs any capital improvements, whether it's work on the course itself or new mowers or something like that, so that when we get this golf course up to the great shape that it's going to be, that we were able to maintain it and not have it neglected. So just like a checkpoint or in your master plan calendar or something like that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I'm happy to go next if you'd like.
Yep.
I'm Bernadette Lardson. I run both the Los Alamos or the Betty Ehart Senior Center as well as the White Rock Senior Center. I'll start off with a kudo. The library system in this community is above and beyond. Their staff is always great and just doing really great things over the pandemic. I currently run the senior centers. I'll be in my 3rd year here pretty soon. If we're looking 5 to 10 years down the road, I think we would have some capacity hopes and dreams if we're being pie in the sky about maybe adding on an addition. We're supposed to get a bunch of great work done this year, so I don't want to not seem appreciative of that. But I believe in the next 3 years, the state of New Mexico will be like 4th in the nation for a number of seniors. So we always have space issues and we try to work around that as we can. Just prior to taking this job, I was the interim director of the youth center, so I'm not sure if anybody is here from there, but I can say particularly the Los Alamos Youth Activity Center, which services 3rd through 8th grade. I already see that they have some space challenges just in case they're not here. And any questions you might have of me, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you.
Hi, this is, I'm the director of the Nature Center. And I think one thing that you'll encounter in the community is a lot of people will say how much they love our trails and that's why they live here, because our trail system is amazing. But anytime you're going to talk about spending money on something new, people are going to say, will you keep maintaining the trails? So people really are going to want to make sure that you're spending the amount of money that needs to be spent to keep our trails in great shape.
Okay, thank you. Other strengths or weaknesses before we move on? Okay, if you think of something, bring it up or jump on the chat.
I would like to also add how wonderful the bus service is and how well we've collaborated with local Atomic City Transit and the Senior Center working together, especially in the pandemic. We don't realize how lucky we are most of the time in this community.
Okay. My next couple of questions is what additional programming activities or services do you feel should be offered by the Community Services Department, and including those integrated services, social services, cultural, recreational, library, all those things. So really what services are missing? And then what new facilities or amenities you'd like to see that aren't available or improvements to existing?
I'm happy to go again and say that, again, with the library system, one of the great things we've done here with Senior Center in the pandemic is we deliver library books to shut-in seniors for the library. I think especially as the population is aging, if that could be a community, so county service at some point, we're happy to do it while we're still allowed under the pandemic restrictions that we have. I just think that would be another valuable service, and I'm sure you already realize it, but getting your hands on that big old Smith's parking lot facility down there, that's a prime piece of land if you're thinking of building something or taking something over.
Thank you.
My name's Christina Olds, she, her pronouns. I'd love to see more cultural stuff. I know we have a little bit of a museum and we have a little bit of Manhattan Project stuff going on, but I think even more of that would be great. I mean, I do actually, that actually would be a positive too if the museums fall under cultural services, but I'd always love to see more of that too.
Yep. Great. Okay. Any other input?
Hi, my name's Frank Mars. This is kind of maybe on the edge of social services / maybe outside, but something that's on my mind right now because we have a baby due in March. Childcare is very hard to come by in Los Alamos. Making that a community responsibility might be a challenge, but that's definitely something that I know lots of people struggle with, especially in Los Alamos.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll keep moving then, and likewise, anything comes up, let us know. So what are the key issues and values that Los Alamos County Community Services need to consider and that we need to consider as we put this plan together? And then what are the priorities of this plan, in your opinion? You can't have everything. What would it be? You guys are too polite, waiting on somebody to jump forward.
I've been putting stuff in the chat, so.
Great.
And I
Nope,
think
we
Brandon
are
also
just-
did that. Yeah,
So JR said I skipped a slide, so we'll go back to one after this one. Thanks, JR.
I'd like to add, just keeping in mind, and I'm a huge recreation user here, and I do think we have great trail systems. I know we're not supposed to say what others said, but that is my whole reason for being here. And I don't use a lot of the other services, but I do hear people who are who don't work for the lab, who are in financially different straits, struggle a little bit. So as much as we can spread the great stuff that we have to the people who don't work at the lab, have a little bit less, would be great. I'm not sure how that is or what that would be, but you guys are the
Okay.
experts in that.
Anyone else? All right, now I'm going to go back. Well, I thought I was. There we go. To slide 8. That's the one we skipped. Are there any portions of Los Alamos County that are underserved by the Community Services Department? And are there any key partners and stakeholders in the community with regards to assisting in implementing this integrated master plan?
I would say through my previous work, when I work with the schools, it seems like as soon as kids graduate, they can no longer be engaged with the teen center. So there's kind of that loss in between the 20 to 25. Again, I'll also agree that not everybody can afford to do things. So considering that there are free things for people to do of all ages, whether that's, 26 or 66. And I think key partners and stakeholders depends on how you define it. Certainly like Kiwanis and Rotary. And I think anybody that would consider a financial stake in something and building something new or having their name on something that allows something to take place if it wasn't something financially viable for the community.
Thank you.
In terms of key partners and stakeholders, I think in this town, we have a lot of squeaky wheels. And it's good to just keep in mind, like, it's not who's the loudest, but think about the proportion of the community that it is, maybe, is what I'm trying to say very uneloquently.
Sure. And our survey will assist in that. Anyone else? All right, let's go on to next steps. You guys are a pretty quiet group. If anything comes to mind that you want to add, ship it into Corey and he'll make sure we get it and include it in our process here. This Thursday night, we are going to have a public open webinar at 6:30. Corey his department will have a link that they will advertise, and you simply click on the link and register. And it's one that we can have up to 500 folks. We will show a presentation of kind of the themes that we heard through our 20-some meetings here for these same questions, and still allow people to chat in additions or comments. And again, we'll record that and print out the chats. That will also, again, I think we're coming in on the 22nd of February to meet with the county commission at a work session to get their input and for them to see what the community has said to date. And then from there, we'll start constructing our survey that will be distributed. Likewise, in March, our GIS folks will come in and do that inventory assessment and the level service analysis. The survey we would hope to get it finalized and out sometime in March, probably toward the latter end of March. And then once we get those results back and we have all of our analysis work done, probably thinking the last part of April for the 2 findings presentations of kind of our input, and then also our level of service and inventory assessment. And then from there, we'll start to look at those preliminary recommendations and go back and create our draft. Okay, any other comments for the good of the cause, or feel free to let everybody know about the meeting Thursday night. You're welcome to attend yourselves as well. And again, we're going to be doing several of these per day through Thursday and then Thursday night. So with that, I want to thank everybody for their attendance, and we'll let you wrap up here.
Thank you. Again, thanks everyone for taking your time. If you want to keep up with this project, you can go to the county's main webpage, hover over government. On the right side, it says projects, community services. All these meetings are being transcribed and moved over there, so you can keep up with not only this one, but what other people are saying across the community about this project. The desire at the end is to have a complete list of ideas and projects that we vet, and that we have a community priority on what we're going to be doing next. So we want to make sure that to give our community good input, give our community services some direction, and maybe try to answer some of Katie's questions about maybe it's not always a squeaky wheel. Maybe we go into this as a community knowing that these are the top 5. These are the top 5 we're working on. And then we'll go on down to the next, and then we can have a conversation if something new shows up. So again, thank you for your time. If you come up with something after the fact, either shoot me an email or Linda Lindstrom, and we'll share it with the team. Thanks again, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
Mhm.